Yeah, Sanhedrin Daf, Kufiyot Aleph, Amud Aleph, third to last line. We just mentioned that Moshe said that Hashem is slow to anger. Tinaka Kamanda Amar Erech HaPayim Ra'ah is according to the we're proof according to that. It says Kishala Moshe L'Maram when Moshe went to receive the Torah in Shemaim. Mitzvah Baruch Hu Sheshiv V'Ketev Erech HaPayim. He saw Hashem writing the words Erech HaPayim, slow to anger in the Torah. Mar L'Pnav, he said to Hashem, Ribono Shel Olam, Erech HaPayim L'Tzadikim, are you only slow to anger for Tzadikim? Marlo, he said, Af L'Shem, even the Rishaim. Marlo, Rishaim Yavedu. How come you don't just destroy the wicked? Why are you slow to anger on them also? Marlo, Hashta Hazid Mate Ba'ilach. Now you will see what you're going to have, meaning you're going to use this against me soon. And sure enough, Kishahautu Yisrael, when Bnei Yisrael sinned with the Meraglim and Hashem wanted to destroy them, Amarlo, God said to Moshe, Lo kach Amar to the Erech HaPayim L'Tzadikim. Didn't you say you should be slow to anger only with tzaddikim and not wicked? Moshe said to Hashem, 1 second, you also told me that you are slow to anger even for the wicked. You said earlier. He heard a certain child saying the following pasuk. And shortly afterward, he heard the next part of Tehillim. Tefillah Moshe. And he connected it. Those are the two different things that Moshe Rabbeinu said. Amar, Rabbi Chagad said, Shema minha erecha paim ra'ah, must be that Moshe Rabbeinu saw Hashem was slow to anger. That's why he bowed down to Hashem. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Rechina, Aktiv Berachula, Atarad, Brosh Kol Tzaddik L'Tzaddik. Hashem's going to give a crown to each Tzaddik. Shneimar, B'yom Ahu Yeh Men Ai Tzvaot, La'ateret Tzvi L'Sfirat Tzvar L'Shar Amo. My La'ateret Tzvi L'Tzvar, what does that mean? That rewards only for those who do his ratzon, his will. Those who wait for the geulah. You think anybody who does Hashem's will? The pasuk says for the remainder of the people, those who make themselves like low, like just a regular guy, which means those that are humble. For someone who is controls his Yetzirah. First to judge who judges something absolutely true and doesn't go strictly on evidence, but he goes with his gut and what he sees in front of him. Overpowers his Yetzirah. Refers to someone who is going back and forth in battle of Torah, yani Tamid Chacham in learning. This first is someone who is Tamid Chachamim who come early to the shul in the morning and they leave late. What's the difference between the tzaddikim who are regular tzaddikim and the tzaddikim who have these midot of waking up early and staying late and learning? Hashem told him, "V'gam ele kuyayin shagub v'shachar ta'u paku v'pedila ve'en puka ele gehinam." Which means meaning a person cannot be a true Talmid Chacham. He cannot be a perfect Jew unless he is making sure he's consistent and steady, which is why we're going to plug it in, do the daf, right? And therefore, a person has to make sure that he's consistent and steady. That will allow him to retain his tzidkut. New Mishnah, Anshe Nidachat, the people of an Er Nidachat, the city is doing Avodah Zarah, and Laim Hedek Lumabal will not go to Ulamabal. Shemar, Yasu Anashim B'nei B'la B'kirei B'divchat Nashiyah Sh'ayam. They don't get headache. Like, they don't get headache. Unless, right? So the only reason why they get headache is if the entire city does it. If they're convicted, because regular Avodah Zarah is Sekila. So they're not considered Er Nidachat until, which would get them headache, beheading. And the people who convince them to do Avodah Zarah are from the same city. From the same shevet. Until the majority of the city has been converted, quote unquote. And unless men did it. If it was women or children, or only a minority of them were doing Avodah Zarah, or people who from outside the city were making them do Avodah Zarah. They're considered like individuals and they get sekila. You need two witnesses and a warning for every single person, like a regular guy who's doing Avirah. The stringency for a single person doing Avodah Zarah is more stricter in some ways than an entire city. Because why? An individual person who's doing Avodah Zarah gets sekila, which is more chamor, and therefore his property is left alone. However, when it's a city that everybody's doing it, they get hereg, they get beheaded, which is less, and therefore they lose their property is burnt. Should destroy everybody in the city. So now, if it's a person who's passing by like a caravan or traveling through, he's there just for a day. These are counted as part of the non Ovid Avodah Zarah, and therefore if it's 50-50 and this guy is it's 49-49 and this temporary guy is there, you count him as one of the innocents and he could save the entire city. Destroy everything and kill everything. If the tzaddikim have something inside the city, it's destroyed. If it's outside the city, it's saved. Whether it's inside or outside, you still lose it. We just gather everything into the main street. The main Rehov, they don't have that main street. Make one. If the square was outside, the main street was outside, make it inside. You shall burn everything for Hashem. Means their stuff and not Hashem's stuff. Which means something that's hegdish, you should redeem it and then burn it. But Truma stuff should be left to rot. And Ma'aseh Sheni and written like Torah and Mizuzah and stuff should be buried. Kalil Hashem Lokech burnt. Rabbi Shimon Mesif Mir Makadosh Baruch Hu Mata Ausein then Be'ayin Dachat. If you do what you're supposed to do against Erin Dachat, which will be burn everything. Ma'ale ani alechem ki idu atem ma'alim ola kilid as if you brought me a korban olah. V'haytatel olam, it should be always like a stack of nothing. You can't even make it into gardens and stuff to grow stuff. Rabbi Akiva says no. It says also you shouldn't build it, which means you shouldn't build a new city. If you want to make it into gardens and stuff, you may. Okay. You should not touch anything that belonged to them. Whenever there's a Rishayim in the world, God angers in the world. If they wicked are gone from the world, including their property, that's God's anger from the world will dissipate. Men have gone out to do Avodah Zarah. Hen v'lo shlichim has to be them, yani from that city, not anybody else from outside the city. Anashim men, in Anashim b'chad mishnayim must be at least 2 men. The V'achar Anashim lo Anashim excludes women. Anashim also v'lo ktanim excludes children. B'nei B'lial, Banim sheparaku, all the Shema Meresem is pure people who are throwing off the yoke of Hashem off of them. Now they don't want to believe in God. Make Kirbecha from with you, v'lo men not from a different neighbor, from the border city. Yeshvei Iram, part of your city, not a different city. Lemor, you have to have witnesses and a warning to each person to be convicted on Avodah Zarah. You can divide one city into 2 different Shivatim, meaning when Hashem initially divided Eretz Yisrael with Yoshua and everybody going into Eretz Yisrael, they had and there was a city and the line was drawn down the middle. You could split between 2 Shivatim. Rosh Hashanah says no. You can't divide it. One second. We know from here, our Mishnah, that you cannot kill them for Erin Dachat unless they're from the same city and from the same tribe. My law sounds like we see from the fact that you have to say that it's from the same city and from the same Shevet. It sounds like there could be a case where it's from the same city, but different Shevet. It sounds like, so you can split one city to 2 Shevatim. The Gemara says, la. Then Afla Yerusha is referring to a case where maybe the same city can be divided, not because of from initial Yerusha from Hashem by Yehoshua, but rather it could have fell from his mother. The mother didn't have, the mother who married another man from a different Shevet, through the children, she gives it to her child, therefore she could have free from Reuven and her husband from Shimon. That's how you get from the same city split up. In any different explanation, that one member of one Shevet give to another member as a gift, and that's how you can have one city with multiple Shevatim. Another question. You should have 9 cities of Eretz Miklat for the Levim from 2 Shevatim. My love sounds like 4.5 from one Shevet, 1 for another Shevet. It's not like you can do 4.5, 4.5. Sounds like you can split a city between 2 Shevatim. Gemara says, la. 4 and 5. If it's 4 and 5, the pasuk would have The Gemara does not, because if it's 4 and 5, the pasuk would have said which one's giving 4, which one's giving 5. Kasha, good question. That's a question. Let's say the people uh, decided by themselves to do the Torah. No one came to convict them, to convince them. Does it mean that the Torah has to be that you convince from elsewhere, not by themselves? Or maybe even they did by themselves. If children or women made them do Avodah Zarah, they're patur. Why? So we said you're patur, and we said why? The Gemara is asking why. Am I? It'd be equivalent as doing it to yourself. So it must be doing it by yourself as patur. Gemara is not a good proof. When people are doing it based on their own selves, that's very strong. You can't get them back. However, if they're chased after and convinced by women or children, their convincement, their desire to do the Zara won't be as strong, and therefore they won't be considered Er Nedachat. Okay, the Mishnah says so the whole majority of the city has been convicted and therefore will become Er Nedachat. The verse says, how do you do that? How do you convict people to do the majority is doing Avodah Zarah, and thereby saying that they're chayav? At what point do you decide, and how do you decide when 50% is doing it? The Gemara says, you judge each person and imprison them. Judge, chayav, throw them in prison. Once you get 51%, you start beheading. You can't do that. You can't delay the execution of somebody. If the guy's on death row, execute him that day, or rather the next day. You can't delay it for multiple days. The Gemara says, no, better. Allah says, Danin v'soklin, danin soklin. True. After 51%, you start doing beheading. Until then, you convict him like a regular guy, and they get sekila. Once 51% has been stoned, then you start doing beheading. Itmar, says that you do stoning as you go. Just make up multiple courts, many courts. Convict in 51% in one shot, and then you could do beheading in one shot. The Gemara says, any that's the case. You could take out one man or one woman to take to your gates, which means to the local judge, or Sanhedrin rather. You can't judge the entire population of a city in one shot. The Gemara says, Ella must be you set up multiple batitinin, and you do have to investigate. And if the majority is convicted, you bring them to the great Sanhedrin of 71 Yerushalayim. They convict them, then they execute. That's part of Mishnah. We mentioned in Mishnah that if people are there passing by, they are considered part of the innocent in regards to the counting of the vote. Okay. The caravan passing through. The land is there for overnight. They convicted, they decided to live there with them. If they're for 30 days, they're considered part of the city, they get beheaded and they lose their possessions. Under 30 days, they're considered individual, and therefore they would get stoned and their possessions are not destroyed. We know that a person has to be in the city. How long is a person be in the city to be part of the city? 12 months. Why are we saying 30 days over here? It says, one, to say 12 months, that's to be considered a full-fledged citizen of the city. 30 days, however, you're part of the city. You have a visa. I'm living proof. Someone said, I don't want benefit from anybody from the city. Someone living there for 12 months, you can have benefit from him because he's a citizen. But less than that, you can't get benefit. If you say, I don't want any benefit from people who are staying in the city, if you're there for 30 days, then if it's less than that, it's okay. So we see from here that it can be considered a citizen, 12 months. It can be considered someone who's staying in the city, like a visa, that is only 30 days. Next part of the Mishnah. Probably going to say that the tzaddikim you don't destroy the property of the tzaddikim that are outside the city. Anything inside of it, even the stuff of the tzaddikim inside is destroyed. The people's stuff, not God's stuff. And all of the stuff includes the Rishaim's property. How come the tzaddikim should lose their property inside? Because why are they sitting? Why the tzaddikim in that city? Mamunam, the property is the reason why they did it. Meaning, why is there property in there? Because the property is the reason why they're in the city in the first place. And therefore, if you got there because you're staying in the air and dachat, let yourself get destroyed. Maramor. According to the Chizda, when you're saying that the stuff outside the air and dachat has to get destroyed of Rasha, it says Rabbi Hizda says you have to bring it into the city in time for the burning. The burning ceremony for the Ir Nidachat. If the Rasha has this stuff outside, you have to bring it inside in time for that burning ceremony in order to get burnt. A deposit, a collateral or deposit left by the Ir Nidacha is permitted. What's the case? If you're saying where another city put their property in the city of the Ir Nidachat, of course it's mutar. Does not belong to the Ir Nidachat city. Maybe you want to say it is referring to the property of the Ir Nidachat, and left in a different city. If you can reach it in time, like Rav Chesed said, you should reach it in time to put it in the Ir Nidachat. Why is it mutar? You should burn it. If you can't put it in, you already know that you can't do it after the time frame. Gemara says la. Really, to my case where another city put it into the Yernidachat. Where the Yernidachat took upon itself responsibility to watch it and to make sure it's safe. Therefore, it's considered like it belongs to the city, and that's why it's burned. Therefore, the Pisa says, even that case, you would think would be burnt. According to that, how destroyed. An animal belongs half to the city of the Yernidachat, half to the different city. Asura, you cannot eat any of the meat. Though that's half belong to one part of the city of the Yernidachat and the other half belongs to a different city, muteret, you can eat half of it. My time, why? Why is one asur, one mutar? An animal is essential. All parts of the animal is essential part of itself. The veins and the arteries and all the organs work together. Therefore, the whole animal is considered one entity, and therefore you can't cut it in half. That's what's asur. Isa, however, a doe, cut it in half, boom, two halves. Behemat ir nidachat, the animal of an ir nidachat, would slaughtering it be making it mutar from the tumah that it would get from nivila? Meaning, if you can't eat it because it's part of the ir nidachat. However, if I slaughter it, will it take it away from, if I do shahita, will that take away the tum'ah of it being a nivela, a non-eating animal, or not? Because why? The says to kill it by the sword. It sounds like it doesn't make a difference how you kill it, if you slaughter a shahita or not. Or maybe you say that since you slaughtered it, it's considered a good shahita, and even though you can't eat it, at least it's not tameh nivela. What's halacha? Why says teku? Ba'ed Yosef. Yosef has a question. What's the halacha regarding the hair of a tzedeket woman? Is that burnt by the property? Is that considered disconnected or not? The Gemara says, Marava, asur. 1 second, you're saying that the wicked women have to cut off their hair and burn it also? Take both b'saraf takti. The Torah says, gather and burn it. And therefore, the only thing that you could quickly gather and burn, which excludes this people's hair. You have to cut it and then gather and burn it. So human hair is never burnt specifically. Even a Rasha woman. It's referring to the case of a wig of a tzedeket. And we see from here that a Jewish woman wearing a wig is considered tzedeket. Very interesting. Hey, what's the case? If the wig is attached to her body, it's on top of her as she's wearing it, it's like part of her body. That's not the case, but let's say the wig is hanging on one of those freaky mannequins. Walk into a dark room with that thing hanging there, guaranteed a heart attack. So if it's on the mannequins, maybe it's considered part of the tzedeket that's inside tzedek's property that's inside the ir nidachat. Never to be destroyed. Or maybe since it's always going on and off, therefore it's considered on her, and therefore it should not be burned. The Gemara says, teku, no answer. Amen.